Hello folks, Zidster here with another Final Fantasy XIV Dungeons for Dummies. Today, I am fortunate to have 3 of my free company members with me. And they're all acting a little crazy here, doing emotes and having fun. Anyhow, on the left of me, the Makote female is Emily Tempest. The little Lalafell in the Yuna outfit, that is Rosemine Tempest, and the little Lalafell to the right of her is Alex Strongheart. Yes, if you all were interested to know, both Tempests are big fans of the anime series That Time I Was Reincarnated as a Slime. And of course, Rosemine is in reference to, if I'm remembering correctly, the anime series Ascendance of a Bookworm. We've gotten together to do this video of the next dungeon in my series, and we hope this all goes well. And now, without any further ado, we are into the next dungeon. This is the 3rd dungeon of A Realm Reborn in Final Fantasy XIV, known as Copperbell Mines. Now, as we've gone through the first 2, they have decided to do some changing up of some of the dungeons from their original state. Copperbell Mines happens to be one of them, which makes it better in some ways, bad in others. But as we go through, you will notice the differences, and then hopefully you will enjoy this a lot better than when we went through with the duty support system. Now I'm going through here as a warrior, and warriors are pretty powerful in and of themselves. They can take quite a bit of damage and they can dish it out. Now, I didn't do my usual when I went through this dungeon. Normally I will do a dry run before I go in so that I know exactly what I'm doing when I do these videos, but this was sort of spur of the moment. And so we noticed a few things we screwed up, such as, you can't open the door without the tiny key. So we had to go back and pick up the tiny key. So we go through here, and there's a lever to go down to the next level. You'll have to use that. Now we go down here, there'll be several mobs. Unlike the newer dungeons, if you've skipped through pretty much everything, you paid for the, what is it, that thing where you can skip through the story and move on to, like, shall we say, Endwalker. One of the things you're going to notice if you're going through these dungeons for the first time is, unlike the newer dungeons, the monsters in here, if you continue to run, you will lose aggro and they will go back to their normal state, much like in the open world. So you might want to be careful of that, especially if you are in here for experience. Again, as I've said, the more monsters you kill, the more XP you get. Now, this dungeon is pretty much straightforward, much like Tamtara Deepcroft. There are a few side passages. Just for your information, you'll see them up on your mini-map. You don't need to go in there. There's no monsters. There's no loot. It's just there for aesthetics. So, if you're just running through, ignore those side passages, or you can ignore them altogether, unless you're just wanting to go in and take a look at the nicely done dungeons that Square Enix has been so kind as to make for us. So now we are taking out some more mobs, heading towards the first boss. In most cases, you can run through here, and like I said, ignore most of the mobs, unless, like I said, if you want experience. I've taken my time going through this and didn't take as many pulls as I probably could have. Number one, so I didn't lose the mobs that I was gathering. But number two, the healer I've got here is a scholar, and he's kind of new at working with scholar. So he's, I was just trying to make it easy on him. And of course I have with me a bard and a summoner. Unfortunately, Alex, our summoner, wasn't able to get her hotbar put together the way she really wanted it to before we started. Now over here you see this little thing on the floor, and up here on this hill it's called fire sand. Make sure to pick up both of those before you go over to the wall, and you're going to interact with the wall. Put that down, and then you're going to have this little plunger thing. You got to push that, and kaboom! There we go. Here is the first boss. Now they changed things up from the previous way it was done. This boss originally started out with a whole bunch of little mobs like, oh my, I can't remember what those things are called, but anyway, they were the little bunny ear looking things, and bombs. And when this guy showed up, you had to take him out, and 9 times out of 10 you were constantly running from one end of the arena to the other, because he would run to one person to attack them and then go for another person. It just was annoying. So by doing this here, it pretty much makes it a tank and spank, except for the AoEs that appear underneath him, which will go off in the order they appeared. Now you're probably sitting there going, crap, I'm a tank. I can't walk away. I can't do DPSing if I walk out of the way. Yes, you can. There's plenty of distance attacks for tanks. Now again, we had to pick up the tiny key, interact with the door, and move on to the next section of the dungeon. Now, as I said before, for tanks, you think about it, oh, well, from a distance, how am I supposed to attack? Well, warriors have a really cool ability called Tomahawk, and that is an attack from a distance. And here we have a little tiny mistake, which was our Emily Tempest and Alex Strongheart went into the elevator without Rose, mine, and myself, and hit the lever, which sent the elevator down. And they had to hit the lever to bring it back up so that we could go down. This happens more often than you would think. Unfortunately, you still have to go through the whole thing of sending the elevator back up to get the people you missed. Oftentimes we used to make a joke if a carbuncle got stuck up there, oh no, my carbuncle! Anyway, as we go through here, there are 2 side passages. Now here you do want to go through the side passages, because here you have to take out these bombs. It's called a blasting cap. You have to take them out to get the fire sand that you will need to open up the next section of the dungeon. Now there's also loot in either side. There's treasure chests. Just make sure you've gone through both sides of these chambers so that you get the blasting cap and get the fire sand. If you don't, you cannot move on. So if you thought, oh well, I'll just ignore those side passages, I don't need to fight those mobs, yeah, you do. So you take them out, you get the fire sand, and again you go through the whole steps of going and putting the fire sand by the wall and exploding it. That will open up, I do believe, the next boss. And again, for those of you who are completionists, I do believe most of the chests in here and at the end boss will drop some of the plundered gear. So that may work for you. If you don't want that, but you need it for upgrade, feel free to take it. Now, we have another fire sand. Make sure you pick that up on the way to this next boss. Now, they changed this from its original design, which was originally you had to, throughout the fight, there was a little thing to the side that you could interact with that would summon in a blasting cap. The tank would have to go over and take it to the main slime and blow it up and do these little pieces that you're seeing here. But now you don't have to go through that. All this there is the slimes. They appear and AoEs appear on the floor. Make sure you are not near one because they will explode for a massive amount of damage, and the poor healer will then have to heal it back up. Otherwise, this is a simple tank and spank as well. And there you have it. Boss number 2 is down. Now we have to pick up another fire sand. Remember, you picked up that other fire sand before. These walls require 2 fire sand to explode. So make sure you haven't lost any or you haven't missed any along the way. That opens up this area of the dungeon. And this area is not exactly straightforward. There's a lot of side passages and areas. Make sure you go through it all because there is loot and there are mobs that you can take out for experience. And of course, possible gear for upgrading your fighter. Now, one thing to keep in mind. Now, some people say, oh, well, what do I need this gear for? I'll just, get gear another way. Well, just so you know, it's not always easy to get a hold of gear that fits for your class or fits for your time or wherever you're at, and suddenly you go into a duty and it says item level too low. Or you're not doing enough damage, or you're taking too much damage. I highly recommend making sure if you are starting out, make sure to check those chests because there may be something in there that will help you in furthering your quests. Now, in these areas, we take out these mobs heading towards the final boss, which, by the way, will look a lot bigger than that little guy. I know he doesn't look very small, but he is actually small in comparison to the final boss. Now in here, I did use my map to make sure I was going in the right direction. And here we are. We are going into the chamber with the final boss. Now this boss is pretty straightforward. It used to be quite different. In the original version of this dungeon, this guy, you'd start fighting him once his hit points got below a certain level, he would go to the back wall behind him and whack the wall, and there would be multiple of his little friends that would come through and do damage, and they would knock out walls, and then they would summon in more friends, and you had to deal with that. So doing this way actually made things a lot easier. This guy has 2 basic mechanics to keep in mind. One is the in circle, which means you have to get in underneath him before he does his big swing. And the second is round AoEs that appear on the floor that will explode. There's also the tank buster. Make sure, healers, that you have them up and running. Now, here's the end of the dungeon. We have killed the final boss. And this moved a lot faster than with the duty support system. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed our run of Copperbell Mines with our crazy crew. It was fun for us, and we hope you enjoyed it. And we hope that you will come back and visit us again for another episode. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. And if you have any comments for me, leave them in the comment box below. Thank you, and hope to see you again.